It's more of a fireside chat. We're going to talk through Roger's incredible entrepreneurial career. I'm Charlotte Williams. I'm from the Thought Partnership. That's a terrible headshot. Thanks.
Only a woman would say that.
It needs to go. But most importantly, this is Roger Wade, who is chairman of Box Fund, has had an incredible career, which we're going to hear about now. So let's kick off without further ado. Can you talk us through your overall, your whole career? Because we talked a bit before, advertising, brand owner, founder of Boxpark, now Box Fund. Tell the audience more, your trajectory.
I'm going to try and make this fun because I know it's lunchtime. So I guess I've got to build up a bit of credibility for those of you that don't really know us, or try to build up a bit of credibility. Can you hear us at the back? Because I really struggled earlier. Okay, if I'm shouting, it's because I'm conscious I could hardly hear. Yeah. Oh, well, I picked that as a tip because occasionally I could hear it. So the really good thing about listening to me, you'll realize how low the bar is to be successful, okay? Because you could not start with a lower bar than me. So where do I start? Out of university, I did a degree I didn't like because I basically wanted to be a doctor, like, your typical Irish and Asian father wanted their son to be a doctor. Failed in my medical exams. And straight after university, my first 3 jobs in advertising, Low Howard Spink, WCRS, Ogilvy's, I got the sack in the trial period. I think I've got a record.
That's
3
incredible.
months, 3 months, 3 months. Okay, that's how low the bar is. It's on the floor. So at the age of 22, I came to the realization that if I did employ myself, I was going to be long-term unemployed. We used to call it a dole. I don't know, Gen Z or whatever, and I think you called it something else, but on the dole. So I had only a few passions at that time: dance music, clothing, and football, I guess. And I definitely was going to be a footballer. I definitely was going to make money in dance. I was a shit DJ, really bad. But I knew a thing or two about clothing. So I started importing American clothing right at the beginning of the whole streetwear industry. This is going back to before many of you were born, so in 1989. And I created what was then one of Britain's first streetwear brands, which was Box Fresh, which, for those of you that don't know it, we also were the first importer of Carhartt in the UK. But I was the guy that sold Carhartt before it became really big. And we brought on board brands like Penfield. So in my first business, it took me about 15 years to really build that business up and sell it. And I eventually sold it to a company called Pentland Brands, who I guess are a £10 billion group. They used to own Reebok. They own lots of things. They're currently largest shareholder in JD Sports and a major shareholder in Ocado. And I worked for Pentland Brands for a couple of years, and lo and behold, that didn't work out. And I left, and I set up my own brand consultancy company, and I used to effectively buy and sell and license brands on behalf of other people. So my notable clients would be Superdry, any sort of deal. And if you see like Superdry toiletries or bags or glasses, I probably did that deal. And I used to work for things like the Natural History Museum. We've got a great collection of old pictures, by the way, and Universal Music. So I was your brand man. Why? Because I realized the power of the brand when I sold my first business. I literally got 90% of the value in my first sale from the brand and 10% of the trading company. So I felt this was a lesson I could teach other entrepreneurs. And then I got, again, fed up with sort of having clients that never listen like me. And I built the world's first pop-up mall, Boxpark, which was built out of containers. It's just around the corner. And I exited that. Come in, don't worry, come on. Can you get some people off the street as well? Come to the front, please. Because you've got to make it look busy. Yeah, well done, brave. You're a marketeer. and where was I? And then I started Boxpark, for those of you that don't know it, and the business was very up and down, but eventually, hey mate, how are you? Good to see you. I'll bring my own guests. And I built that business into one of Britain's fastest growing business. And I was in a really fortunate position at the age of 55 to exit that business and not really need to work again. So I exited to Lloyd's Development Capital. But lo and behold, I started playing this a couple of years ago. I started playing a lot of golf. You're going to regret answering this question. You're going to say when you're going to get a word in edgeways.
Great answer.
Yeah, and I was pretty shit at golf. And I basically said, my daughter said to me, who I tried to get down today, because she works in advertising around the corner, but she's never interested in anything I do. So she went, no, Dad, I'm busy. It's like, it's a marketing event. You get to meet people. But no, she's not here. But she was my greatest critic. And she said, Dad, you made loads of money, but what else did you do? And that really hit home. Because for 35 years, coming from quite humble beginnings, I was only concerned with financial security, just making money without real thought about why. And then when I made the money, I realized I had everything I really wanted in life before that. And the money didn't change anything. So I was looking for a new purpose. And I think Peter Crouch once famously said, if he wasn't a footballer, he'd be a virgin. If I wasn't an entrepreneur and ran Box Fresh, definitely a virgin. Right. So, I really owed a lot to entrepreneurship. I thought it was, gave me my sense of worth. And I also, at the time, wanted to give back to society, wanted to help create a better world. I think that's what you do when you make money, don't you? You go and do charity acts. So rather than giving the money away, I thought I'd actually do something. So I set up my own venture capital fund, and we're backing UK consumer brands who want to make a better world. And it's on the philosophy, if you want to feed somebody, don't give them a fish, give them a fishing pole. Well, I haven't really got Bill Gates's type of money, but the best way that I can instigate change is by investing in young brands and helping guide them towards change. So we've invested in things like plant-based gum, because not many of you know it, that 99% of gum is plastic, and big bad Mars Wrigley don't let you know that. And it's bad for the environment and really bad for your brain, because they found that a teaspoon of plastic is in your brain. So, we're trying to take on big bad industry.
Bad corporations.
Yeah, there you go. Intro, credibility. Was that
Hopefully
built
no
up?
one from Mars in the audience.
I would love it if they were here.
They're keeping very quiet if they're here. So I'm going to ask you a question, maybe slightly dry, but I'm sure you'll make it interesting. We've heard a lot this week. I think AI has been the theme of South by Southwest generally, and it's come up a lot in this room as well. But the future of brands, which is what this conversation is about, in this world where everyone is so tuned in to digital, these hyper-personalized journeys, it's not so analog, is it, arguably? What is the role of brands now and the future for brands?
So, I didn't hear much of what the previous speaker was speaking, and it sounded really interesting because I was nodding to the bits I did hear. And one of the things I'm a great believer in is emotional intelligence. And just don't believe all of that hype that, AI and, tech is going to take over the world. Because we've heard it all before in previous generations. I think there was a famous track, I'm showing my age, video killed the radio star. And the reality is radio and podcasts have never been better. They shouldn't be good, should they? You don't get the dopamine hit that you might on a YouTube. But, I like my podcast. I like listening to radio. And they're saying it about retail now. They're saying that bricks and mortars retail is dead. But then I created Boxpark because of that. I just never follow that hype. There's a lot of bullshit out there. And ultimately, as marketeers, which I think most of our audience is today, we're dealing with emotional intelligence, exactly what he said before. And what is the emotional intelligence that we're really dealing with? We're dealing with, I guess, Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. And in my case, I had one mantra that I ran on every consumer brand, which was the need to feel special, which is could be worded in another way, the need to big up your ego. Okay? You know, it's why are you wearing that top today? Why is his shirt, you know, white shirt, blue top, conveniently open? We all have a need to look. I'm picking you, aren't I? It looks good, by the way. It looks good. Yeah. But whether you recognize it or not, we have a need to feel special. And as marketeers, that's what we're doing, okay? And when people mention to me that big AI is going to take over the world, yes, it's going to make some things easier, but I don't know how many of you have tried to create any imagery on ChatGPT. It's pretty shit, right? So, you know, the reality is I don't think you're ever going to replace the creativity of human beings. So what we're investing in now and what we're looking at is we're rejecting data, okay? We're going back to emotional intelligence because when the consumer buys a product, we think there's three core pillars to consumer brands, okay? If you could take away anything, take this away. They are product. If your product is not special to the customer, you will not exist. Be totally product obsessed, okay? Then the good news for marketers is you can have the best product in the world, but unless you create traffic to that product, it's pointless. It's like having a store in a back alley. So in my organizations, we had the product guys, the marketeers, and then finally, you need a great team that will develop it into profitable sales. So I've always, in my organizations, put marketing and product people on the same level as financial people. So in answer to your question, don't believe the hype that, you know, your jobs are dead, that creativity is not going to be in demand. Because as an investor, what I see is the following. The UK has got fantastic opportunities. Why? Because it's on its arse, okay? It really is, largely due to a shambolic Tory mismanagement over 14 years. So we hear all about, you know, a few taxes that Labour put on, but we forget 14 years, including the largest single act of economic self-harm, which is Brexit. You know, we just sort of forget that. And as a result of that, I believe that Britain has got great value. It's got great talent. We've got great art colleges, okay? At the same time, Britain is the second largest producer of consumer brands in the world. We have got the second largest VC and private equity market in the world. So we're really investing in the UK, in your talent. We're investing in consumer brands because there's always going to be a need for people to feel special. And we're not obsessed with the data. We're obsessed with product, traffic, and team. And we believe that the UK has got incredible resources in that area and will bounce back under a sensible government, hopefully not reform. Racist fuckers.
Round of applause for that one. Amazing. You talked about the plant-based chewing gum. I had no idea that chewing gum was so bad for you. That's a revelation.
Made of plastic.
Yeah. What other? You're obviously getting a lot of people coming to you. Are you with different ideas? Will you invest in us? I'm sure you get so many. Is there anything that really excites you that you've seen?
Yeah. So there's some formulas to make money. Okay. And I've been in a fortunate. I've had to learn, I guess, those rough sort of formulas. I spoke about consumer brands, product, traffic, team. Really be obsessional about that. The other thing is you've got to know your industry a bit better than anyone else. So to make money, focus on what you're really good at. And the final one is find a trend and grow with it. Okay. So in what I did with streetwear was just growing, and I grew with that. For instance, we used to sell to the owner of Supreme, which is worth over $1 billion now, when he had a tiny store, James Jebbia. You know, we used to sell to Superdry when well, Carhartt to Superdry when they had one store in Cheltenham. So where was I going with this? So find the trends that are growing. We then, with Boxpark, grew with street food. And now we believe that the future of consumer brands are going to be impact brands, okay? And what does that mean? And it's really difficult in this current environment. So look, I can be really blunt here. We got a fucking dickhead of a president in America, right, who's a fucking idiot. And you know, so don't allow yourself to be affected by the short-term policies that he brings in that actually largely affects American businesses. So don't believe that it's woke to actually care about the environment, care about your health, care about racial diversity, care about, you know, equality amongst sexes. You know, this is just a blip. And actually, the Chinese, in many ways, are leading the way of showing us about responsibility in terms of the long term. They've really rolled out electric cars, despite all the hype that you hear. So I believe that the future of all consumer brands are going to be impact brands. Why? Okay. So around the corner, it's not going to be AI that's going to be the biggest game changer. It's going to be quantum computing. So quantum computing is going to lead to levels of computing to 1,000,000-fold. So translated, at the moment, when we analyze food, for instance, we can analyze it to a molecular level, that's a tough one. We're going to be able to understand the interaction of food from an atomic level on your body. I'm sort of going to ruin the question. So does that mean that brands like Nude, brands like Extra Gum will exist in a few years' time? No, I don't believe, because now they're already finding that the plastic's going into your brain, leading to dementia. Does that mean that the world's largest consumer brand, or certainly FMCG brand, Coca-Cola, will exist in 10 years' time? No, I don't believe it will. I believe that as a result of quantum computing, you're going to realize all the shit that's in there and the effect that it has directly on your body. And you're going to have this across the board. Despite what you've currently got with Trump, you're also going to have a sudden realization that, fuck me, you know, global warming really is happening. And unless we do something about it, guess what? We're not going to have a world to live in. So we're going to revert to what Kate Raworth is talking about, which is fascinating, which is donut economics, where we're going to make decisions, where we're going to put the environment at the heart and soul of everything that we do. And actually, we've got some fantastic brand leaders or examples of this in people like Yves Chouinard, you know, that promises a lifetime guarantee on his product. By the way, Barber did that 50 years before, okay? Or you're going to have leaders like Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry, who are not frightened to stand up for the atrocities that are happening in Gaza. Genocide, it's definitely genocide, everyone. You know, there's no doubt about it, it's genocide. So that's what I want to see. You know, that's what's going to happen. There's going to be the future of consumer brands will move towards impact brands. And you as marketeers, the opportunities are going to be to drive traffic to them. And the other opportunities is going to be create them. So we're involved with Mother, the agency, who have an incubator arm called Broody. We're involved with Uncommon, and they've got an incubator arm called Unrest. And you're going to have marketeers going forward as well, creating their own brands. And they're going to create some fantastic brands because you really understand the language of brands. So that's what I believe the future is. Fabulous. In a roundabout way.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I know you're on a bit of a tight schedule, so I feel like
I've got to 1:45 latest.
I just thought, you know, we've had some fantastic conversation there. I feel like if anyone wants to ask a question, Kerry.
I stole your question, didn't I?
Hi there.
Make it really tough. Go on.
Okay,
Make it controversial.
Okay, two-parter. Firstly, why does your headshot look like Paul Hollywood?
I heard the dog whisperer.
Secondly, no, Cesar is Cesar. No.
He bakes a good cake, though.
And secondly, so you talk about future of, heritage brands like Coca-Cola. There are many out there. They're entrenched in our culture and in our psyche. How can or should they pivot in order to stay relevant and actually continue to have a positive reputation?
I mean, firstly, to qualify, it's not heritage. It's those brands that I consider that are not healthy for you. Let's just take the example of Extra, which is a brand I know a lot about. They've got 95% UK market share. They're responsible for 40 billion pieces of plastic chewing gum hitting our streets every single year. And recently there's been a study that shows that a teaspoon of plastic is getting into your brain, and they're the only food that you eat that's got plastic in it. You might accidentally drink microplastics through your water or your fish supply, but not knowingly chew on plastic.
But what about brands like you mentioned Coca-Cola? So how is a brand like that? And that really is part of,
Kerry, frankly, I don't give a shit, because I want to throw the grenades in the room. I want to blow them up. So I've got a healthy dislike of those big brands, to be honest with you. What I'm really saying is there's going to be a whole new world out there where you're going to get young, disrupting brands that are going to come on board. I looked at yesterday healthy soft drink brands. I could name, you've just had Poppy sell for 2.1 billion to PepsiCo, for instance. But we've also got UK equivalents. What I want to start doing is for British marketeers, product people, to start really creating a renaissance when it comes to British brands. Okay, frankly, I don't hear enough about Britain now. I think we're a fantastic country of marketeers, of retailers, of brand creators, and I really believe in that community. So I want us to really start believing in ourselves and develop a whole new tranche of brands that would take over the big bad industry brands. Sorry to be so blunt, but I'm happy to be blunt.
Yeah. At the back.
That's a good question.
Here we got a question at the back.
Hello, Piotr here. First, I'm a big fan of Boxpark, my favorite spot in Shoreditch. Love it, I'm obsessed. And
go to the Box Hall, it's better. We just built it
100%.
On Liverpool Street.
Yes. So, it's one of those brands that are very much immersed in culture, and that's what I love about it, in the cultural context of the city, of the community here. What's one thing that brands are getting wrong about being part of the culture, shaping culture? Any advice for those?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because Steve Jobs once famously said about connecting up the dots of my life or your life, and a lot of the innovation that I've been responsible for creating has come out of adversity. Okay, so firstly, I came from a culture in which we used to make 1,000 streetwear products a year, and copying was really, it was a no-no because you'd get beaten up by the other streetwear industry, So really embrace change, really embrace creativity. Too many people say it, but the thing, if you want to compete against AI, then be creative. Do something that could never do. So I think there's a bit of an epidemic of data-led decisions. It's sort of, it's the era of the geek, I guess. So, I think let's embrace our creatives. It doesn't need to be data-driven all the time. When it comes to venture, we don't even look at the spreadsheets or the business plans because they're not worth, the paper they're written on. Because in early stage venture, it's just about product and traffic and team, because there's not enough data there to really analyze. So have the bravery to create, have the bravery to be different, have the bravery to take on the big bad industry. That's what we're doing with nude. We're running a campaign to try and get plastic gum banned. We want to go for the full hog. We want to go for the jugular.
Any more questions?
Please give it to that man at the back.
Okay, coming.
And introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Sam. I've friends with Roger as well.
Ex-Goldman Sachs.
And sound the board as well. So I've actually at a distance here because I've got Tina who is at Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So I've had to keep this distance away.
You can buy us, Tina.
There we go. I've just got a quick question. Maybe it'll help the bigger brands here as well. Is the future of consumer brands for large companies, is it to focus on being a generalist or a specialist?
You know, the nature of being a big brand is you're always going to be a generalist, aren't you? I mean, how many ways can you try and recreate Coca-Cola? I mean, they've recently just done the personalization of a can of Coke or whatever, a bottle of Coke. So, you know, they're really big ships. They will really find it hard to turn. So whenever I hear about taking on, you know, big industry, I'm not really that worried because they'll be so slow. And actually what history has taught us is you've got brands like Harry's Shavers that have taken on Gillette and are really damaging them. You know, you've got Liquid Death, you know, taking on, I don't know, soft drinks industry. You had Ben and Jerry's back in the day taking on Pillsbury Doughman. So, look, realize, yes, they're incumbent, but actually their weakness is their size. And if you can be nimble and realize their weakness, then there's an opportunity. And the other thing I would say is the UK is an incredible test bed because our retail really is. We were a nation of retailers. We've got some fantastic, sophisticated retailers. And unfortunately, we're allowing American giants like Amazon to destroy them because there isn't a level playing field, which is another annoying thing, which is they don't pay corporation tax like the little corner shop, you know, does. And they avoid business rates. So I think there's the opportunity that exists is the ecosystem of consumer brands in Britain is incredible, but somebody has got to gel it together by backing those brands. So we've got the creators, we've got great marketers, we've got great financiers, we've got great retailers. It's a great test bed. We're actually a lot more adventurous than many other regions. Actually, some incredible retail innovations have come from Britain. Some fantastic product has come from Britain. The internet came from Britain, you know, so let's embrace that. And as a result, there's incredible opportunities here. I think we're in danger of sort of swallowing the Kool-Aid of Silicon Valley, really. So it's got to be, you know, from America to be successful. I just don't buy into that.
So we're a nation of creativity.
I've really fucked myself with Americans as well. Haven't I? Coca-Cola
I know.
gone. All of America gone. Reform voters gone. Israeli backers gone. I'm happy with that.
You've done it,
no?
yeah. All in half an hour. You've done it all in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'm doing a Gary Lineker.
Roger, thank you so much. That was really
You're
entertaining.
very welcome. Thank you for my ranting.
Thank you.
Thank you.